Okay, making our batch of cream soap. This is a high foaming. This is the one that's listed in the recipes in the file area. We have 18 ounces of stearic acid, 8 ounces of coconut oil, 5 ounces of rice bran oil. You can use any kind of oil that you want, whether it be olive oil, canola oil, whichever oil, soft oil that you like to use in your recipes. There we go. And if you notice, I'm putting it all inside the crock pot. The crock pot, I should say. I'm going to go ahead and turn the crock pot on high to melt all my oils. Now, the recipe says 9 to 12 ounces of glycerin. When I made the soap originally, I had come up with 10.8 ounces. But we also need the 1.5 ounces to mix with our stearic acid for super creaming. So I'm going to add that in instead of putting it in afterwards. I put everything in one pot at one time. I've already made this recipe a number of times, so I know exactly what I want to use. I've taken careful notes. And I know exactly how much water I want it to be to get the desired consistency afterwards, once it's whipped, that I actually want. So in here we have our, this ended up being 12.3 ounces of glycerin, vegetable glycerin, 19.5 ounces of stearic acid, 8 ounces of coconut oil, 5 ounces of soft oil, and we're going to wait for this to melt and completely melt down before I come back and we do the lye solution. And then I'll show you how we mix it all together, and then I'll talk some more about the water that you can add afterwards when you whip it. Exactly, how should I say it? I add that in with this, so all I have to do is mix it one time, let it cool, and then whip it, because then it's all finished. I don't have to add because I've already done all that right now. I'll explain more in a little bit. But right now, we're going to let our oils all melt down, and then I'll add the lye solutions to this. We'll be back in a little bit. Okay, my oils are all melted and my vegetable glycerin. And I'm going to add the sodium and potassium hydroxide solution. This recipe calls for 5 ounces of potassium hydroxide and 1 ounce of sodium hydroxide. In the water amount is 36 ounces of water plus the 11.2 ounces that we're going to need afterwards, because we're going to do everything in one pot at one time. And you'll notice this will immediately start to solidify. That's because of the stearic acid in it. The potassium and sodium hydroxide immediately bind with the stearic acid. And as you see, it's kind of clumpy. That's normal. But I'm still going to stick blend it so that it gets creamy. So this is going to get loud. Scrape the sides down, and as you can see, it's nice and creamy now. It's no longer chunky, and that's what you want. Yep. Now it's a matter of turning the heat down onto low and letting it cook for about 3 hours. And I'm going to show you periodically what this looks like. Every 20 to 30 minutes I'm going to come back and stir it, and I'll be showing you what it looks like and how it transforms as it's cooking. But see, it's nice and creamy. It's fairly easy. And we'll be back in about a half an hour to let it to stir it again. Alright, it's been cooking for about 20 minutes. And it's real liquidy. And once it cools, it's going to thicken up and get nice and firm. So then we can whip it later, but it's just cooking right now. See, it'll start to get solid as soon as it starts to cool. So we'll be back in another half an hour. Okay, it's been about a half an hour or so, and I am stirring it again. And as you can see, it's very fluid, except for where the top gets cool. See how it thickens? That will all be cream soap tomorrow, because it all gets whipped in together. See how solid it gets once it cools? That will all be whipped into cream soap. gonna let it cook a little while longer. It's got about another hour to go. Okay, this is the cream soap that we had made earlier, and it's the basic recipe like I said before. It's cooled now, so now we're gonna go ahead and whip it. Okay, as you can see, it's cooled to the point to where it's almost like a gel, it looks like. But we're gonna go ahead and whip it up, so it's gonna get a little noisy in here for the next few minutes. as you can see, now that it's a little bit more quiet in here, it's very, very thick and creamy, and it's whipped. Imagine a really, really thick body butter, and that's what this is that's where this is right now. I mean, it's like really, really thick. But as it sits, it's going to relax more and more, and as it rots, it's going to become a little bit easier to work with. However, I like mine kind of thick, so I use a minimum amount of water in it right now. And if I need to add water to it later on, after it's gone through its rot stage, I go ahead and add water then, just a little bit at a time, maybe an ounce or two. But I also think about all of the additives that I like to add to it, like fragrance oil is going to loosen it up some. If you fragrance it, if you put micas in it, or any sort of colorant that's not liquid, like a powder form, it holds them very, very well, and it will help thicken this up. It'll thicken it up even more a little bit. So what I do is I kind of hold off and wait to add any extra water until I need to. But right now I like to keep it nice and thick, especially during like summer months. Like this is going to be shipped out and made into different things for the summer. So I like it like this because that way when it ships in the container and it gets hot, it's not going to end up being, you know, this really, really fluffy when you put it in there, and then when the person gets it, it's going to be this aerated, it looked like it melted, and it's only maybe a container that's like half filled, if that, because it will do that. It will deflate as it gets warm. So right now it's got a very creamy texture. Like I said, it's more like a very, very thick body butter. So, and you are going to definitely put your hand mixer to the test with this. But at the same time, I love making these. And like I said, when I made this, I put all the ingredients in ahead of time. I knew how much water I had already put into my original batch. This is the original batch from the files that are in our files, in our group. So it is, I'll have all of the ingredients for it and the measurements in the description when I put this up. But from here you can color it, you can add whatever you want to it. You can even add hydrosols to it for facial cleansers. You can add clays to it. This is just the plain and basic. I usually, when I make mine, I usually add a small amount of castor oil to it, so you can make variations to the actual oils and the recipe itself. Like I take water sometimes, and I make it with water. Sometimes I'll use, depending on what I'm planning on making it for, I will take it and omit the water, not put any water in it whatsoever, and I will put aloe vera gel in it. I get it from the health food store, the organic, all-natural aloe vera gel, and I'll use that in it instead of water. I've used pureed papaya. I've taken it and put it through my little magic bullet and pureed it up and used that instead of water. I've used cantaloupe instead of water. I've taken this one recipe and I've changed it around to many different things. Instead of the extra 11.2 ounces of water that you would put in at the time, that in Marie Fowler's book, when she says, you know, to add it in at this point, where you can, like I said, you can add in more water if you want to, but I like mine nice and thick. Anyways, instead of adding the water in at that point, I omitted the water, and actually I thought I had made a huge mistake with the last batch that I made. And instead of adding in the extra 11.2 ounces of water that I was supposed to add to the actual recipe, I added an extra 11.2 ounces of vegetable glycerin. So, but it turned out, and it's a beautiful soap. So it's nice and creamy. It's not grainy at all, as you can tell. This is not grainy whatsoever. It's very, very thin. It's got that nice, beautiful shimmer to it. You can tell it's soap. And there's endless possibilities. I use this for facial cleansers and masks. I use it for everything. I use it as a regular soap. I keep it nice and thick. I fragrance it. I'll put a mica in it. I'll put glitter in it sometimes. Sometimes my daughters like it when I put the shimmer in it, because they like that kind of like that shimmery all over their body sort of feel. But if I keep it thick like this and I put it in the containers, you only need like that much, and put it in a shower puff, and it will lather up like crazy and clean your entire body. And it rinses clean. There's no residue whatsoever. I know some people don't like to use stearic acid, but that's okay. Everybody's different. I do suggest, though, for any new formula that you make or do or change, I strongly suggest you do it the original way and take plenty of notes when you do it. And the original way, and I mean it this way, is you add your oils, your stearic acid, or whatever butters or hard oils you're going to add to it, and then your potassium hydroxide along with your sodium hydroxide in your water, and make that in the crock pot. And then you add in your super fatting, which is your excess oil or butter, or for this one it was stearic acid and vegetable glycerin, but you can also add in, you know, extra butters to super fat it, and then when it's hot you mix it then. But I like to add all that in ahead of time. Once I've done the recipe, I will add everything in at once and just cook it all at once. That ways I don't have to mess with it too much. I just cook it, and then let it go until it cools, and then whip it like this, and then I can put it in containers so that I have it when I need it. I take out small amounts as I use it, but I put it in like a little old ice cream pail that has been bleached and cleaned, and I usually put rubbing alcohol in each one before I put any more in it. And I only take out what I need. So, I mean, you can make finger paint soaps with this for kids. You can thin it down just a little bit more to make it a little bit more fluffy and pliable. And kids love it. It's great. You can do whatever you want with this. And you, like I said, if you want something that's a lot softer to use, go ahead, feel free, go ahead. Now, like I said, I'm going to be checking in on this once every 3 weeks, and I will show you the change in this. So in 3 weeks from now, you can expect another video, and we're just going to kind of check on this, and I'll show you how much, whether it's smoother, softer, easier to work with, not as hard on my hand mixer, or easier to mix, whether it's relaxed a little bit more, but you get the picture. But I'm going to write full details of everything that I did and how I did it along with this video, and you guys should do pretty good. Oh, and I'm sorry that I forgot to show you, you know, a couple of the other 20-minute cook phase. I just kind of at that point figured, well, you kind of get the picture, it's the same thing. And let your crock pot do all the work for you. Let it melt your oils, let it cook it. One thing, it's simple. I don't melt my oils on the stove and then put them in here. I let my crock pot do all my work. So, alrighty guys, hope this helps you. And if you have any questions, put it in the comments area below, and I'll be happy to get back to you. Have fun, and I'm going to go package this up and let it start rotting for a little while. So I'll see you in 3 weeks, and I'll be around if you have any questions to answer them. Bye-bye. Alright, there it is in the container. And I know that a lot of you are going to ask about how well does it lather, or how well does it, you have to test for, why aren't you testing for it being neutral. Well, I don't test for my soaps being, I don't test for my cream soaps being neutral, or with the, I don't invest in buying that, the, whatever, to test it and stuff like that. I don't worry about it that much, because I'll be honest with you. The soap's gonna sit and it's supposed to rot for at least a week to 2 weeks. And it's gonna mellow out. It's the same thing, it's the same philosophy as our cream soap, as our regular soaps. Just because you cook it until it's basically neutral does not mean that it's gonna be completely neutral when you're cooking it. Now, this is the lather that I'm getting out of it, and it's a nice, creamy, rich, and mind you, that's no shower puff or nothing. It's just, and it coats my hands, so you get a nice lather out of it. Now imagine that in a shower puff. You're going to get a really thick, foamy, high foaming lather that's going to cover your entire body. And I ran my hand under the water many times, and I'm still getting more and more lather out of it. So that's what my cream soap does. And it rinses very clean feeling. My hands don't feel dry afterwards either. So I just wanted to kind of show you guys, you know, how it lathers, and I wanted to tell you that there's no really, I don't feel there's a need to have to make sure that as soon as it's done cooking for it to be completely neutral, because to be honest with you, it's going to sit and it's going to rot for a while. So that's our cream soap, and we're going to put it away. This is my old from the chemistry store, my citric acid that I bought, 15 pounds of it. So old buckets and containers come in handy when you make cream soap. So say goodnight, and I'll talk to you guys later.